After putting about 20 hours into Spider-Man from Insomniac Games and Sony and beating the entirety of the game on spectacular difficulty, I felt now was the appropriate time to do my review and tell you guys all the things I loved about the title and some of the things I really didn't. And also I'm going to ask a simple question that I'm going to answer. Is Spider-Man the best superhero game of all time? What is going on, guys? Thor19, the man with the million, back again with another video. Now, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I played all of the games on the 360, you know, like Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions and The Amazing Spider-Man. You know, I've wanted to see Spider-Man be made with the love, care, and respect that Rocksteady showed Batman in the Arkham series. And I'm happy to report that Insomniac absolutely nailed it. They showed that they love Spider-Man, and they created a game that can stand potentially toe-to-toe with the Arkham games. So let's get into everything I really enjoyed about the game. And first and foremost, I'm going to have to talk about the swinging and traversal, because my god, did Insomniac nail the feeling of being Spider-Man swinging through the rooftops of New York City, from perching on the ledges and dive bombing off, gaining momentum, and doing a very powerful swing to get to your next objective. It is so much fun to just swing around the city, doing tricks, doing zip lines, and getting that boost of momentum to get where you need to go. So much so that I found myself in the very beginning of the game doing collectibles, picking up backpacks, taking landmark pictures for the collectibles, and doing all the side missions before I would even touch the story. That's how much I loved the swinging and traversal system that Insomniac made for this title, and I'm not really sure how they can improve it for a sequel, although I'm sure they will try. Now, of course, the next thing we gotta talk about is New York City itself and how vibrant and detailed and alive it is. Probably the best representation of New York City in a game yet, and it is just full of people and cars going about their, you know, daily lives, and they'll even interact with Spider-Man from time to time. Yes, that's right, it's a stark contrast from the Batman Arkham games, where Gotham was always either evacuated or the games took place on an island where there was no civilians at all. So it's pretty nice to see Spider-Man land and fight some bad guys, and the people come up to him and be like, "Hey, I knew you know, Jameson was wrong about you. You know, give me a high five, Spider-Man." That stuff is cool, even though that's kind of the minimum of their interactions. They don't do more than that, but it's nice to see New York City be represented so good in this title. And I mean, the city looks great, whether it's in the daytime in the full sun, whether it's, you know, the sunset, or whether it's at night. And I honestly couldn't pick which version of the city I like best, although I do like swinging through Times Square at night and seeing all the billboards lit up. But of course, we got to talk about the combat, because this is where the meat and potatoes of the game really are, because you're going to be fighting a lot of bad guys throughout the game. And the combat is very much like the Batman Arkham games, so if you played those, you'll feel quite at home here. You know, simple square button presses will do a bunch of attacks. You can dodge off walls and attack, dodge under people's legs, use your webbing to swing around the enemies, use your different gadgets that you have, your web slingers, your impact webs, your electric webs, to kind of, you know, give you a better fighting advantage, because you will be going up against a lot of enemies at some point in the time. 10, 15 enemies, a lot with pistols or machine guns, some with even rocket launchers, and you're going to have to be quick-witted to survive it, because even on spectacular difficulty, in my opinion, maybe it's because I'm a veteran of the Batman Arkham games, I didn't have any trouble whatsoever. But taking one or two hits from certain enemies and your health would be really depleted. So you're going to have to be on your toe of dodging when, you know, Spider-Man's spider sense comes up. And I really love the focus on aerial combat in this one. Most of the time when I would get into a fight, I would dodge under them and do an air launcher, launching them up in the air, do some air combos, and then pull another enemy up into the air with me, do some more combos, because I found it that the enemies couldn't hit me while I was up in the air like they could on the ground, so I spent a lot of my time in combat up in the air. One of the things I really enjoyed about the combat system was the focus on the risk-reward aspect of the focus bar. You see, as you beat up enemies and use your web gadgets, your focus bar will fill up, and when it's all the way filled, you can use it to instantly take down enemies with triangle and circle, or you can press down on the D-pad and use that focus to heal. So there's that nice risk-reward system of, hey, do I want to instantly take out these enemies, or do I want to save my focus just in case a guy with the rocket launcher nails me and I need to heal, because who wants to restart fights over? So I enjoyed that aspect. But that's not to say the combat is perfect, because there is one thing I really didn't like about the combat, and that's how hard it was to use all your different gadgets while in the free flow of the combat. I know it was more kind of to be set up while you're perched on a ledge trying to figure out if you want to use your web bomb or your electric web or any of the other gadgets to kind of start a fight or continue a fight, but I kind of like how Batman did it, where you can use all of your gadgets while in combat while you're fighting a group of enemies, and I found that a little bit difficult to pull off in Spider-Man. And that's really my only complaint with the combat, other than it being a little bit too easy, even on the hardest difficulty, but that might be because I'm just that damn good at the Arkham-style games. Another thing I really enjoyed about the game was the story that it was trying to tell, and don't worry, no spoilers, guys. But I thought that was really well told and was quite touching in a few moments. And I really enjoyed the fact that this isn't a Spider-Man power origin discovery story. You've been Spider-Man for 8 years. There is a history here. You've already fought people like Electro and Shocker and Rhino, and there's talk of your history with the police department and J. Jonah Jameson. It gives a sense that this world is already lived in, which I greatly appreciate it. And the game starts out with you trying to take out Wilson Fisk. You know, and it seems like it's been something you've been trying to do for a while. When you finally accomplish that, a power vacuum exists, and that's kind of where everything takes off from there. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I also enjoyed the aspect of Peter Parker, right? Normally in the Batman Arkham games, it's just about Batman. Everything takes place in one day, and you never really get to experience the duality of being Batman and Bruce Wayne. But Insomniac kind of rectified that, where not only does this game take place over a week or 2 weeks, I'm not exactly sure, but it deals heavily with the duality between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. You know, it's important, his relationship with Mary Jane, his new friendship with Miles, and how everything's going with Aunt May. And I really, really enjoyed that aspect, because it gave me a different side to the superhero games that, you know, I've been missing, as I've always thought it would be cool to play as Bruce Wayne during one of the Batman games, but is that something that we never got? And of course, the game looks amazing. No downgrade here, but I didn't really need to say that, as I'm sure most of you watching this can make up your own mind regarding how the graphics look and things like that. And the cutscenes are all well directed. The set pieces are pretty amazing, and you can definitely tell Insomniac had a huge budget to work with on this game. Now, those are all the things I love about Spider-Man, and we're going to get into some of the things I really didn't. And the biggest one for me is the open world activities that they have you doing. Now, there is a point to doing these open world activities: stopping crimes, chasing down pigeons, collecting book bags, taking over bases and things like that. It's because each one of those things gives you tokens, and you use the tokens, research tokens and base tokens and all that stuff, to improve your gear and craft new Spidey suits, which, you know, are really cool. They look nice, and they also give you a power. But man, some of the side missions and some of the actual content here is just busy work, and it's not worth doing outside of the fact that you can upgrade your gear. I really wish in the sequel they would make more meaningful side content, as me swinging down the road and stopping, you know, a shootout or collecting some pigeons or doing research as I'm swinging through smog-filled cloud isn't exactly worthwhile content in my opinion. It just felt like a Ubisoft game in that area, like big bloated open world with just tons of stuff to do, but none of it was really meaningful. I mean, hell, in fact, they have towers that you have to unlock so you can see everything that's going on in the map. I literally had flashbacks to like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, so that is the biggest strike against Spider-Man in my opinion. But there's also some other things I didn't like. I didn't like the forced stealth sections where if you get caught, you die. I'm never a fan of forced stealth sections in any single game, so I didn't like it in this one. Even though I understood it from a story perspective, I can't stand forced stealth sections that fail you. And the other thing I didn't really care for was the boss fights. Now there is one boss fight in my opinion that was really well done, but for the most part I thought the boss fights were underwhelming, and once you figured out the mechanics of what was going on, it was too easy to beat. So there you go, guys. Those were all my likes and some of my dislikes. Did Insomniac create the best superhero game out there? That's the question I wanted to ask, and that was in my mind as I was playing through Spider-Man. And of course, I'm going to have to compare it to the Batman games. Is this game better than Batman Arkham Knight? Yes, in fact it is, and that's a huge accomplishment to Insomniac for their first title of Spider-Man, beating out Batman Arkham Knight. But unfortunately, Batman Arkham Knight isn't the best superhero game. In my opinion, that's Batman Arkham City, and Insomniac falls a little bit short of Arkham City. But that's okay, because this is their first outing, their first foray into Spider-Man, and they have done a lot more good here than bad, which is why I'm going to rate the game a 9. I was flitting around with an 8.5, but I felt this game deserved a 9, and I can't wait to see what Insomniac does with the sequel. You know, all I want to see in a sequel is just more improvements. You know, you already have the world situated, you have the swinging, and you have the combat. I just want to be able to use more of my gadgets in the free flow of the combat. I want more varied side missions with maybe ending in a bunch of different boss fights. I don't like the busy work that the game has you doing, and I think that dragged it down a bit. I also hope they build some amazing boss fights with more mechanics. Because I didn't really find the boss fights to be that engaging. But keep everything else. Keep the open world, keep the swinging, keep the combat. All I need is just a refined game that tells a great story. And who knows? The second game could be their Arkham City, could potentially be the best superhero game ever made. But for now, it's a 9 out of 10. It's a great game. It's a game that I think you guys should check out if you own a PlayStation. Now, of course, people ask me, is it worth buying a PlayStation just to play Spider-Man? That's a tough question to say. You know, PlayStations are expensive, $300. They're a luxury item, as video games are. I would say if you have a whole bunch of other games you want to play in the PlayStation, like God of War, Detroit, or Uncharted, then I think a PlayStation is worth owning at this point just for the Sony exclusives. So anyways, guys, that is my review for Spider-Man. It's a game I really enjoyed. Can't wait to see what Insomniac comes up with for the sequel, as I think, you know, with how good this game is, I think they can take that next leap and make Spider-Man 2 basically the best superhero game ever made. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you share it out on Twitter, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Later, guys.